My life is full of statistics. Thing is, I could have dropped out of school and become one myself, but I didn't because I had people that believed in me. Here's another statistic. 7,000 students drop out every school day. That's one every 26 seconds. It's time that students know that we believe in them.
Inspire a student and share your message of support at boostup.org.
Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phelan, a weekly program here on LSN Television, Time Warner right here in Lancaster. And we're also carried by a number of our radio affiliates throughout Fairfield County and beyond. Do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners that join us each and every week. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank the folks here at Fairfield Christian Academy that produce and put this program together. Typically, we have guests from within the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, and this week we're having Teresa Carper. Good to see you, Teresa.
Nice to see you.
And Teresa is relatively new to the Sheriff's Office, but certainly not new to what she does. And you are involved in Safe Communities.
Correct. That is correct. You had a wonderful Safe Communities program here a few years ago, and then it kind of went by the wayside. And so we're very fortunate that you, as the Sheriff of this county, brought it back, and we're thrilled to be a part of your office and this community.
Before we talk a little bit about what Safe Community means, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I have a pretty extensive background in public relations. Worked with the Ross County Sheriff's Office for 7 years, was in tourism industry prior to that, which sounds kind of strange, but kind of the way it went. But I've also been with the state of Ohio and the Pickaway County Sheriff's Office doing the Safe Communities program, and I was a special project liaison. All in the traffic safety industry, staying in the law enforcement field. Graduate of Ohio University, and love being a part of the law enforcement family, and was a victim advocate. So the nice part of this is that before, I was usually came into play when someone had been injured or hurt or was a victim of a crime. In this case, I get the opportunity to be a part of something prior to it happening.
Prevention.
Correct, and I love that.
Right. So what is Safe Communities? What does that mean?
Well, Safe Communities actually started as a federal program that kind of was a grassroots effort within the communities. What it was is a group of people would work together to look at what in their community would cause harm or some sort of health or injury-related issue in that community. As time went on, it became more of a traffic safety tool, and in the state of Ohio, it very much so is. Federal funds are come from the national level through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and they're given to the states across the board to kind of use in different aspects. One aspect is at the grassroots level, the Safe Communities program. Each community within the state of Ohio, for example, has a chance to look at their statistics, and if they meet the criteria of the number of fatalities that result from auto crashes, they're able to apply for grants through the Ohio Department of Public Safety's Traffic Safety Division.
Right.
And your office was able to do that.
Right. And so you're part of that program.
Yes.
So, Fairfield County, what are you seeing in our counties? So you're primarily centered on traffic safety.
Correct.
And maybe how to prevent things, what to do, those kind of things. What are you seeing in Fairfield County?
Well, what we're seeing in Fairfield County is really you have a great community, number one. I find when I've talked with a lot of folks in your community through this past year, there are so many who are very proactive in wearing their seatbelts and making sure that they're doing the right things when they're behind the wheel of a motor vehicle. Your schools are fantastic, and I know that you have law enforcement officers that are very proactive in the prevention process. Mm-hmm. However, since 2000, from 2009 to 2011, there were 43 people or fatalities in this community, and that is kind of a sad fact. Not only does that person lose their life, but the ramifications that come from that auto crash and the result of a fatality, as you well know, they're just insurmountable sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about a father, mother, brother, sister, wife, whomever. That's a part of this community that's gone now. Many times we find that those crashes can be prevented. One of the best ways you can do it, and it's the number one reason here in Fairfield County, even though you have a high use rate, is people don't want to wear their seatbelt.
You know, that's amazing to me, because it just seems now it's kind of like when you get in your car, it's kind of like second nature.
I do.
And so out of these 43 fatalities, what was the timeline on that again? Between what and what?
From 2009 to 2011. And about, you're talking more than half of those were, had a restraint issue involved, where they didn't put them on, or maybe they wore them all the time, but that particular day they did not.
Wow.
So that's a high percentage. The number one thing that happens in a crash that causes a fatality in this community and an injury is they hit a fixed object. So that tells me something else, and when you look at the statistics, it backs it up. The second reason is speed. People are not following not only the recommended speed limits, and you know this as sheriff, and your many years in law enforcement, many people don't follow safe speed limits. Those yellow signs that you see on the highway before a curve, or when it's you have inclement, conditions, weather conditions outside. You know, if something recommends that you go around that corner at 20 miles per hour, go around that corner at 20 miles per hour. Because a lot of times people will lose control, they try to overcorrect,
Right.
and they hit a fixed object, and that's what causes the fatality or injury in a vehicle.
Yeah, I do think that people kind of view those, when you're on a curb, you're in a 55 mile an hour zone, all of a sudden you come to, and it has a suggested 45
Correct.
or 30. Most of the people really don't think about that.
Right. They think, I'm going the speed limit,
Right, I
I'm
don't-
following the law.
Right, so they don't have to do that.
They don't have
so
to do
those
that.
are what we're seeing.
That's what we're seeing.
43, age, what type of age?
Well,
are we looking at?
there's the other one. Right in that second category there of speed being right behind it are teens. Or people from the age, teens is kind of a wide scope in the traffic safety world. It's from age 15 to 25, the younger driver. And a lot of times inexperience plays a great role in that. Also, more reckless behaviors, speed, alcohol use, and the lack of seat belts many times are involved in that age group. And that is a huge issue for not only this county, but across the board, across the United States.
And I think there's very few people that by about age 30 that they do not know someone that has been killed in a car accident.
Correct.
I had a cousin that was 16 years old and killed in a car accident, and that's been many, many years ago, and he was a little bit older than me. We were kids. But again, he was 16, hadn't been driving very long, and he was killed.
Right.
And so it seems to me, one of the things I've thought, and I don't even know, maybe you can tell me how valid this may or may not be, but it seems to me once a young person gets their driver's license, for the first few months, they're very careful. They've just gotten off. They've just been through the training, and then once they get a degree of self-confidence, they start taking greater risks.
Correct.
And that's where sometimes they get in trouble. But again, a lot of it is inexperience. I mean, you don't know what it's like to drive on snowy, wet pavement until you've done it a few times, and so you can imagine the first time in an icy road with a 16-year-old behind the wheel.
And that's the thing, I have had the great opportunity to teach in some of our, not in this particular county yet, but I've worked with some of the schools in this county, but in other counties I've had the opportunity to teach classes. And I tell them all the time, it's like, I ask them, I said, how many of you play a sport? And they'll raise their hands, and I'm like, when did you start? A lot of them will say, well, I started in second grade, or I started when I was 10 years old. I'm like, well, how old are you now? Oh, I'm 16, 17. Are you better today than you were when you were 10 years old? Well, of course. Well,
Right.
why? I've had the experience. I had the time to practice. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people forget. You do take for granted. You have peer pressure. You kind of want to sometimes, kind of show off a little bit.
You're showing off.
Yeah. And the other thing is the cell phone. The cell phone. It has been a wonderful invention. And I must admit, I love texting, but I have the good fortune of not being very, very able to do two things at once when it comes to these type of things. So I am not able to text and drive, and I really believe that's a blessing for me. But a lot of people are able to text and drive. Huge mistake. You're taking your eyes off the road an average of 4 seconds. People say, well, that's not a lot of time. You close your eyes for 4 seconds and imagine what you would miss on the road in front of you if you had your eyes closed and drive down the road for 4 seconds. That's what you're doing when you take your cell phone out and decide to text behind that wheel. You could miss a dog, a cat, a child, the car in front of you. Who knows what you could miss? And it's become a huge, huge factor in that age bracket from 15 to 25 that's caused many of the injury, accidents, and the fatalities that we've seen.
So what are some of the strategies that you use to kind of make sure that we don't have the fatalities in our county?
Well, awareness is number one. A lot of times, like you said, we all take it for granted. Driving down here today, I may have been thinking about meeting with you, or I may have been thinking about what I need to do when I get home. Sometimes we take it for granted. We need to take that time to be aware that we need to pay attention to what's on the road in front of us. We do a lot of safety campaigns. We have a huge one coming up called Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over. And it's the alcohol-related campaign. And, you know, if people are going to partake in that activity, they need to be responsible and not be behind the wheel of a car. We remind people of that and do suggestions of getting a designated driver if that's something you choose to participate in. And also, the big thing for us is, I think, is to work with our teens when they're getting ready to drive or they just get that license. You know, kind of talk to them about these issues. You do see more people today, even though we're not completely at 100%, you see more people today wear their seatbelts than they did back when I was young.
Oh, I think so.
And so,
I think so, yeah.
That's what we need to do. Is education is a huge thing. You'll see a lot of banners up, and we also work with law enforcement officials on the road. Your office and other agencies are always enforcing the laws by working hand in hand by saying if you don't follow the law, then this is the penalty that you may receive. From the safe community standpoint, we start a little bit further back and go, well, not only do we not want you to get a ticket or pay a fine or pay court costs, why don't you do it for your safety and well-being?
Okay.
And that's what we work on.
So how effective are these strategies overall? I mean, in other counties, I know you were Pickaway County for a number of years.
Yes.
So what are some of the results of this kind of?
I'm thrilled to say that in Pickaway County we did reduce the fatalities over a 3-year period quite significantly. And also we saw our teens in that particular county raise their seatbelt rate by around 27%.
Wow.
I was thrilled to see that. We have seen some of the same issues still exist. But I think already in this community, you have a lot of wonderful agencies. This community, I have to say, coming into it, and I mean, I knew of Lancaster, but I'd never really been a part of the interior workings of the community. I think you have one of the most wonderful communities for cooperation.
Right.
I see people who want to work together. Your law enforcement agencies, you all work together beautifully. That is half the battle. That is half the battle. When you all work together and you go after the same goal, there's strength in numbers.
Right.
And I think that as we continue to work together, I think you're going to see those fatalities continue to decrease, because they're coming down. I believe you had about 18 back in 2009, and you're down to 13 as of 2011. That's still a lot of people. One is one too many. But that's quite a significant.
How many of these are multiple fatalities out of an incident?
I would have to look at the exact numbers, but we do see them on occasion. I'd say maybe across the board, across the state, you're going to usually see about a 10% in there. You're going to see about 10% in there.
Where there's multiple deaths out of
Yeah, 10 to 15%. At least that's what I've seen in my numbers. I could be way off on that, but that's just from what I've seen with what I work with.
Right.
But more often than not, you usually see one person seriously injured. You see one person who has passed. As it. But again, it's not uncommon to have two people in the vehicle. Neither one is restrained, and once you leave the vehicle, your chances go down of surviving that crash incredibly. It's like riding a roller coaster. Would you ride a roller coaster without the bar across your lap?
Right.
No. Why would you get in a car?
You know, and I often think, Teresa, that there's kind of almost a false sense of security when you're in these cars.
Yes.
That you've got a radio, they're nice, you're enclosed, the heater's on, the air conditioner's on, you're shut out a little bit from the world. So there is a false sense of security that really you shouldn't have,
No.
because these can be very dangerous, and a mishap can happen, like you said, in a second. And you've got to be pretty defensive too, because it may not be you. It may be that drunk driver going left to center. Maybe that person, as you come up to that light that is just turned for you to go, that somebody's going to speed through. I think there's always the thought that I'm really probably a little bit safer than I actually am.
Well, and a lot of people who don't wear their seatbelts, for example, they'll say, well, I was just running to the store. Well, you're more likely to die or have a crash within 10 to 15 miles of your home. I don't travel 10 to 15 miles to go to the grocery store.
Sure. So most of this is close.
Yes. So a lot of times that's what's happening. And you have the nice outer loop of the 33. Well, your speeds are going up 55, 60 miles per hour out there. I don't know if anybody's been in even just a minor fender bender. I have had someone hit me from behind.
Sure.
They were going less than 10 miles per hour. And the impact for me, I wasn't injured, car wasn't hurt. The impact was amazing to me, and I thought, I can't imagine hitting something at 55 miles per hour.
Right.
The other thing that I think is important is to remember your children. Put them in that car seat. Make sure they're in that car seat correctly. You know, we see it all the time. Parents often mean to do the very best for the children. Maybe the child is being fussy or something, and they want to comfort them. The best way you can take care of them is leave them in that car seat. Make sure they're in there securely. Because again, things can happen in a split second. I've actually seen it myself twice in my career in this business where parents were well-meaning, and the child is gone.
Yeah.
Gone. Less than 3 years of age, and they're gone. They're not coming back.
Teresa, we're just about out of time.
Sure.
I'd like to have you back next week.
I would love it.
And we can talk a little bit more about
Sounds great.
some strategies maybe that parents could use with their kids
Love
to
to.
kind of talk to them about these things, and talk a little bit more about some of the enforcement programs that we've been doing during the last year or so.
Sounds great. I'd love to.
Teresa Carper
Nice to be with you.
good to be with you. Teresa Carper with Safe Communities right here in Fairfield County. Do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners that join us each and every week, and certainly the folks here at Fairfield Christian Academy that put this program together. If you're out there driving, buckle up, and God bless you, and we'll see you right here next week.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.